上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Together, supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Glad that you have joined us. My name is Heng Sure. This is Saturday. It is the 7th of July? July 7th? And we're here in Berkeley, California. We have some very vigorous lay people who are helping us in Gold Coast, Queensland, bring tonight's lecture off to China via yy.com.net.com, and appreciate that effort. Just aware of how many hands had to move in order to make this happen tonight. We have a simultaneous webcast going out over, going in through GoToMeeting, going out over YouTube. We've got YYNet being translated into Mandarin in the Gold Coast in Australia, which is astonishing all by itself. And right here upstairs we have a translation into Vietnamese, courtesy of our hardworking volunteers. So we've got a film crew, an internet crew, a translation crew, and all of the setup that has to go into putting this Dharma event on the road. We appreciate all that effort, my goodness. The point is what? The point from, let's say, from my point of view, my biggest job is getting out of the way so that whatever wisdom is contained here in both Chinese and English can reflect through whatever lens I polish with my voice, eyes, speech apparatus, and bringing it out into space so that you all can bring your accumulated blessings and wisdom together to make sense of what's going on. What is the Buddha trying to communicate to us 2,500 years ago that will make sense in 2018 here in Northern California? That's the job. And boy, I can't think of anything I would rather do on a Saturday night than participate in this event. When the lens is polished, we can see our faces. They call it your ban lai mian mu, your fundamental appearance, how we really look before all of the social conditioning, the cultural conditioning, the ethnic conditioning, the filtering it through the language of advertising in the commercial marketplace that we live in, getting right down to the bottom, to where our deepest identity lives. That's what we're about. So, first thing we're going to do tonight, we're going to invoke spiritual presence. You'll find it here on the front cover of your text, and we're going to be chanting in Chinese. If you don't read the Hanzi, the Chinese characters, look at the ABCs below. We've got it romanized. If you read Goyan Zimu, the Bopomofo, you can read on the side of each character. So we want you to be able to add your voice to this request to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to please come and bring their light to this assembly. Here we go. Nam-mô Ta Phang Quang Pho Hoa Yen Ji Hoa Yen Hai Hui Pho Pu Sa Na Ta Phang Quang Pho Hoa Yen Ji Hoa Yen Hai Hui Pho Pu Sa Na Phang Quang Pho Hoa Yen Jing Hoa Yen Hai Wei Pho Pu Sa Na 大放光佛华严经，华严爱为佛菩萨那。大放光佛华严经，华严海为佛菩萨那。大放光佛华严经，华严海为佛菩萨那。无大放华严经，华严海为佛菩萨。Page 42 in your text, 42 and 43. We promised 2 weeks ago we'd have a new section of text available, and here it is, by golly. Again, through the hard work of kind-hearted volunteers. We've got Chinese on the left, English on the right. We're going to start with the Shi. Halfway down the page, the line that introduces the verses. At that time, Vajra Treasury. Okay, we'll read that first line, and then the first... Let's see... First stanza. So 5 lines altogether. Here we go. Ready? I'll give you a line, you give it back. Shi. 金刚藏菩萨，欲重宣其意，而说颂曰：七地修治方便会，善集诸道大愿力。复得人尊所摄持，为求圣智登八柱。Okay, there we go. Good. Over to the right now. Can we read together? Let's read it in unison, starting with at that time. Here we go. At that time, Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke the following verses. On the 7th stage, you cultivate wisdom and expedient means. You gather aids to the way and strong vows. The one whom people honor sustains you. In search of supreme wisdom, you ascend the 8th stage. Okay. If you all could sit where I'm sitting, you would see 5 Buddhist monks. I'm the 6th one. You can see me, but I can see them. It's pretty awesome. We haven't had a Sangha of 6 bhikshus here before. Jin Shosher is with us from Malaysia, and it's really fine to see the Sangha. And we'll talk more about that tonight, because we're in the process of giving birth to a new building 72 miles from here in the redwoods of Santa Cruz, near Boulder Creek. So look quick. You won't see 6 of us here every week. Some of us are going to be regularly down in the redwoods, which is a good thing. We think that that's a seed that will bear fruit with more bhikshus arriving. Okay, what's happening? We have finished the prose section of the 8th stage of the 10 stages chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra. Got all that? Sutra is this big, the Avatamsaka Sutra, big chapters called the 10 stages, 10 grounds, Shi Diping. We've gone into that, we're now at the 8th of the 10, and we're at the part where the prose is over and the verses begin. What's the purpose of the verses in a Buddhist sutra? Some people will tell you they came first, that this was the lore, the teachings that were meant to be taught were first in verses, because verses go, and they're easier to remember. These verses repeat the lines, the prose, but it stands to reason that maybe the prose was an elaboration of the lines. Originally, this was all oral tradition. Oral tradition says, my mouth speaks, your ears hear. And your mind can grab it more quickly if it goes dun, 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 dun. Not rhyme. Rhyming is something else. But the metering. When we hear meter, what do we remember? Heart. Ba-pum, 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 ba-pum. The first sound we heard in Mom's womb, we heard her heart. And that makes a deep imprint. So when the verses go bump, so how do they go? Qi di xiu zhi fang bian hui shan ji zhu dao da yuan li. We go, yeah, got it. Print, you know. So it sticks with us longer. Some people say that. Whether or not it's a true theory, important theory, scholars love that kind of thing, and it's not unimportant. It's not the most important. But here we are. It's good to know that the verses repeat what we've studied in the prose section. They're another statement of it, in very abbreviated, because the verses are terse. They're little nuggets of meaning. So some people like to do this. Seventh stage, wisdom, expedient means, aids to the way, sustain, supreme wisdom. Let me go back and find it. And you go back and you page through to find, where did it say that? Oh, right. Oh, okay. And you can pace yourself through the prose, and the principles go deeper. Our Shi Jingangzang Pusa, the speaker of the text, is named Vajra Treasury. He's a bodhisattva, could be a she, and the gender is not important here. He has been speaking all along from the start, and now it says, Yu Chong Shan Xi, wanting to say what he said again, Er Shuo Song Yan. He spoke song, probably chanted, right? Chanted the following verses. Probably, did they use an instrument? Did they use probably not. Probably it was the voice. And how do we know that? We just had a wonderful experience last week of going up to our sister monastery, Abhayagiri Forest Monastery, the Thai forest monks, for the dedication of their new cloister buildings that they built. Beautiful buildings in Redwood Valley. And there were 40 plus. Did we get a final count? Do we know how many? 42 bhikshus there. Yeah, 42 did, give or take a couple bhikshus. How many bantes are there? Count the bantes. So many bantes. And it was wonderful to be part of that. We were well represented with our bhikshus. And the Thai forest tradition follows the Venerable Ajahn Chah in this version of it. There are other venerables from the Thai forest tradition that everybody honors, Ajahn Mun and Ajahn Lee and others. But there were the current Ajahn Chahs, who passed away, born, interestingly enough, same year as Master Hua, also born in 1918. His direct Dharma heirs were there, Ajahn Liam from Wat Pananachat in the Isan of northeastern Thailand. But for what we appreciate is Ajahn Chah picked Ajahn Sumedho, Longpo Sumedho, to go to England, take the Thai tradition to England, he said. And Sumedho said, Bhante, I don't want to do that. No. And I think you should go to England. I want to stay in Thailand. I want to cultivate. It's too cold in England. You know, we bare our shoulder. What are we going to do about that in the winter in England? I think you'll find a way. You go to England. Amabante. So he did, and many bhikshus and bhikkshunis, or 10 precept nuns later, we have become close friends, Dharma brothers, fellow cultivators in the path with these monks. And it was wonderful to sit while the monks put their palms together and go, let's see, Karaniya matte kushalena yantam santam padam abichame che sako huju che suhuju che suvacho cha sumudu anatimani. 40 monks magnified by the lay people who have it. Your bone marrow starts to vibrate, right? Don't fear leukemia. Your bone marrow is well exercised when you hear and in the Thai tradition they say that these parita, the protection chants, heal illness, chase away negative energies, protect you from demons, put minds that are wandering or depressed back right on target. They say there are a lot of powerful responses that happen to this chanting. Very much the same way that we use the Da Bei Zhou in our tradition and the Great Compassion Mantra. The same kinds of energies, they say, come from these parita, these protection chants. So, when we say Ji Suo Song Yue, chances are Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva was doing something very similar to that when he chanted, Qi Di Xiu Zhi Fang Bian Hui Shan Ji Zhu Da Da Yuan Li, something like that, probably. So, now here we are in 2018 in Northern California. We can, be creative. That if it helps the Dharma principles enter the mind, it's legit, it's good. Now, hip-hop, we have the Bodhisattva there signing. We'll see, but it's certainly, that's native, that's indigenous American rhyming for sure. So, on the seventh stage, you cultivate wisdom and expedient means. We looked at the pronoun here, and the first time this was translated, we went through and somebody translated it as one. One does this and one does that. It sounded distant. One is the most bloodless pronoun. I don't like translating as one. One has a purpose to call, instead of you or he or she or it, right? Or your name, a proper noun. But one is some hypothetical person who never ever lived. I don't think that's how the Buddha, he didn't speak this tentatively, hypothetically. Well, should there be someone who decides to, it's like you cultivate wisdom and expedient means here on the seventh ground where we've just been. So we used the personal pronoun you. And there are people who will say, it seems too direct. The Buddha was probably much more elegant. No, I don't think so. I think the Buddha wanted to get it right to the heart. So you'll see you. The Buddha is speaking to us, to you, to me. So that was a choice we made, and I want folks to tell me if you think, that works. On the seventh stage, the one prior to the eighth, where we are now, you cultivate wisdom and expedient means. What are expedient means? How we teach. That's what happened in the ground. The stage we just finished was all these ways of teaching. The Buddha, or Vajra Treasury, using the Buddha's energy. Anybody pay attention to that? Why is this, I say the Buddha said, but it's Vajra Treasury. That's a little wiggle in the Avatamsaka teaching, which is what? The Buddha doesn't speak it directly. He gives his blessing to various Dharma speakers. Here it's Vajra Treasury. The 10 Practices chapter, it's called Forest of Merit and Virtue. In the 10 Transferences chapter just before this, it's Vajra Banner Bodhisattva, Jingang Chuang Pusa. Interesting, huh? Samantabhadra is one of the speakers. Manjushri is one of the speakers. There's even a god, a deva, speaks a piece of the Avatamsaka Sutra, interestingly. So how about that? So, he says, you gather aids to the way and strong vows. What are aids to the way? Practices that help you keep your cultivation strong. Master Hua talked about 助道之法, 助道法. We, myself and another monk, did a long pilgrimage at one point from Los Angeles to Ukiah over 2.5 years. And we would see Master Hua about once a month if we were lucky. And there was a period, we were mostly from Santa Barbara to Monterey, that area, which is Big Sur and other parts. Master Hua would go down to Los Angeles, the Gold Wheel Temple, which was in South Pasadena at the time. And if he was going down to LA to lecture for the weekend, somebody would drive by us on the highway and find us and say, Sherpa was going to LA. He said to pick you up. You want to come? We're like, yeah. We'd mark the place on the highway where we were, jump in the car, drive down. And we would stay outside Gold Wheel Monastery and bow in place in front of the temple on the sidewalk, and then count up the number of bows we bowed. And then after the weekend was over, we would go back to where we'd stopped, and then walk the number of bows, subtract 10% to make sure we didn't cheat. And I mean, we're monks, but you know. So we would start bowing there, and in between, we would get a chance to hear Shifu lecture on Friday night, Saturday twice, and then Sunday morning before we'd leave. So, boy, those lectures went deep because we were hungry for Dharma, not having seen our teacher. One morning, because Marty, Professor Verhoeven, who was known as Heng Chao at the time, was a student of Taekwondo, and also he was a Taekwondo black belt. And he also studied Tai Chi Chuan, and he studied what's called Guangping Yang Shu, Guangping Yang Shi Tai Chi Chuan. He would practice standing meditation for part of his Tai Chi. It's called Chuan Gong, and stand for 15 minutes, half an hour, an hour. And one day, that morning, Saturday morning, we were out practicing standing meditation out behind the temple. And here we looked up, and here was Master Hua on the porch. He was standing there imitating us, and he'd go, he'd say, if you can make your mind quiet, if you can ru ding this way, he said, the principles of Tai Chi and the principles of bowing and cultivation and Chan are identical, he said. 用什么方法入定呢？就是正法，就是助道之法, he said. If you can use practices of Tai Chi to ru ding, to, we say, enter samadhi, to master this stillness and purity and concentration, he said that is a dharma that aids the way. That is a shanji zhu dao, dao yuan li. That's a zhu dao zhi fa, a dharma that aids the way. What are some others? Definitely drinking tea. Tea drinking is definitely a dharma that aids the way. Long as it's Taiwanese high mountain tea, Gaoshan Cha, right? Ali Shan, Da Yu Shan. In this case, I'm told it's wild pu'er, which is not from Taiwan. But tea has been a chan cha yue, right? They say drinking tea has long been an aid to chan meditation, keeps you awake, invigorates, helps focus. So that's one. I don't think there's any app on the App Store that can be called a Dharma that aids the way? Honestly, any of the 10,000 mindfulness apps that exist on the store, I don't know if there's any one that could be called I guess maybe your alarm clock. That's one. You just set it so you, Dharma that aids the way by waking you up when you drowse, maybe something like that. So what are dharmas that aid the way? Wholesome friends, for sure. Things that simplify life, that allow you to keep your energy focused and gathered. Those are dharmas that aid the way. Zhu Dao Zhi Fa. And strong vows. Those are things that people cultivate on the 7th stage. The one whom people honor sustains you. Fu de ren zun. Okay, ren zun is tian ren. Tian ren shi zun Bhagawan. The Bhagawan is the Buddha, the one honored by those in the world, by people in the world. So that's a title. The title of the Buddha is the Shi Zun. He is honored by people, they say, in the world and people beyond the world. So devas honor the Buddha as well. He sustains you. So in other words, if you can make it to the 7th ground, does it sound out there? Does that sound strange? That the Buddha will know that you're cultivating and will help you out. You think, which one of these Buddhas stands up off the altar to come and help you? Well, that's a question, isn't it? When we say the Buddha, who are we talking about, actually? Who are we talking about? Is it the invisible Buddha in empty space, whom we just went, Namo Da Fang Guangfo Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Fo? Were we talking about the Buddha above, the one lit up, Amitabha? Were we talking about, who exactly? And when I ask that question, I don't expect an answer. It's a little bit rhetorical, but my guess is, and we've actually done this, and it's a really good exercise for anybody who's working with kids and Buddhism or mindfulness, people in, if you're gathered together, let's say Tsuji has a gathering, and you're in the airport waiting for the plane because you're taking you to the latest disaster area. When you get a chance, if people are in that space, you can say, tell me a story about who the Buddha is to you. Who's the Buddha for you? If you have 10 people in the room, chances are you'll have 10 different answers. Who's the Buddha? Now, you all didn't know it, but tonight we're going to ask each and every one of you, before you go home, who's the Buddha? No, we're not. I'm kidding about that. But it'd be interesting if we went around and asked each and every one of you, where did you first encounter the Buddha? Who was it? I would want to ask people who were Buddhists in Vietnam, people who were Buddhists in Taiwan, Hong Kong, people who, Roger, when did you first hear the Buddha? Were you already like an adult? Or Alan Watts, bingo. So many people, Alan Watts. The Way of Zen? One of those. Okay. Mine was a little earlier. It was actually the Dharma Bums, Jack Kerouac. And I was in 7th grade. And I saw the word Dharma on the cover of a book, one of Kerouac's books. It was on my dad's reading table. My dad actually read Kerouac, so it had to have been popular. Jinwei Shi, when did your very first encounter of somebody?
One of the books, the Korean master Sansonim, who yes, and I borrowed 2 books from the local library. It was this book and Roshi Kapleau.
Roshi Kapleau. Okay, so, the Three Pillars of Zen.
It was different, different book, but it have no sense for me at all. It takes a while for me to figure it out.
Made no sense of it. Yeah,
at the time.
So in Poland, in a library, first encountered through Korean monks' efforts, and also Roshi Kapleau, Philip Kapleau, who was one of the first pilgrims of Buddhism to Korea. How about that? Suzanne, where did you first encounter the Buddha, and who was it? Like, was it a picture? Was it a sutra? I should clue these microphone carriers so they don't have to run back and forth. I'm actually picking people as far away as possible, so you get to run back and forth.
Hello. I was really young. I was reading Wang Rong,
Wang Yong,
the fighting stories, the 射雕英雄传.
Okay,
And in the book,
不是金庸, Wang Yong, 金庸,
Wang Rong.
Wang Yong.
And the character mentioned meeting a monk, and he introduced him to the Vajra Sutra. And that's how I learned about Buddhism.
The Vajra Sutra. So
Yeah.
did it say Jin Gang Jing?
Sure.
Yeah, this is in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to ask Jerry, because Jerry's grandma. Where did you first encounter the Buddha? And was it an image, or was it an idea, or was it just something that you bye? How was it?
It was an image in my, there's an altar in my home.
An altar in your home?
Yeah, so it's just part of the ritual.
It was
tradition.
there.
Yeah.
And was it, how were you supposed to relate to it? Was it like, could you approach it, or did you have to like, what was the feeling around it?
It's a god.
He's a god.
Yes.
So powerful, huh?
I won't say powerful, it's a transactional. It's a transactional. You pray to get some good luck.
If you pray, it's a transaction. So if you pray to this figure, there's something coming back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. Donna, put you on the spot. When was the first time was it through grandma or mom or friends? How did you encounter the Buddha first?
I don't quite remember, but I was born in Zhanghua, Taiwan, and Zhanghua has a Bagua Shan, and there's a big, huge Buddha statue there.
Okay.
And we go there all the time.
Okay.
And we would bow to Buddha.
So you bowed to the
Yes.
Buddha. Okay. Cool, thanks. Yeah. Okay. So my guess is, we had, in the West, books. Definitely. Because why? There aren't that many images. You just don't see them, you know. So Roger, Jinwei, myself, all through printed word. Books have a purpose. They have a function still. And it's important that we don't entirely go across to electronic, that we create the printed thing. And both, so Roger, Jinwei Sure, and I all heard about the Buddha first. And for me it was Zen. And Songsan Sunim was a Zen. So Zen has a very different approach to the Buddha. He's, if you look at a Chinese Zendo, there's a figure in the center. It's usually a bodhisattva. It's usually Manjushri. It's not a Buddha. So who is the Buddha? The one whom people honor sustains you. How does that work? Who is that figure? Roberto, you got a story. Give that man a microphone.
Well, it was not exactly Buddhism or the Buddha, but I was like 15, 16 or something like that, and my accounting teacher talked about theosophy, because he was the secretary of the Theosophical Society, and he talked about Krishnamurti.
Krishnamurti. Sure.
So I consider today theosophy as Tibetan Buddhism, and Krishnamurti could be any enlightened being that you can name and hear. So that was my introduction. Of course, in parentheses, I thought he was completely crazy, but he was the nicest man in the world.
Yeah.
He was really a good person. But he was a little cuckoo because he had all these ideas about, etc. Yeah.
But actually, I first met you at the Theosophical Society as well. That's right. That's right. I'll take full credit for introducing.
No. Before you, well, I met you and Master Hua.
Aha, even better.
In Olima,
Okay.
centuries ago, and that was another experience. But before that, there were other.
Right.
Well, anyway, I tend to collect teachers.
Thank you, sir. So, if it's interesting, if you go to India now, and Roger, I'm going to run you back to David in a minute. So if you want to, in India, if you want to find the Buddha in India now, interestingly, how times and tides change things, it's not easy. People who know about the Buddha in India often say, Buddha Mahavir, Lord of the Buddha Mahavir. Who? Lord Buddha and Mahavira. Mahavira is the Jain founder, Jain. And they put them together. Their understanding of the Buddha is tied up entirely with the Jain religion. They don't distinguish them. So they say Buddha Mahavira. How interesting that's. I'm going to ask David how you first, and before we get to David, before Roger takes Mike, maybe people in Asia don't appreciate the power of Maitreya Bodhisattva, the fat, laughing Buddha. Many, many people first met the Buddha because they were soldiers or sailors sailing through Hong Kong. And they're walking the streets of Hong Kong and they think, oh, I'll get a Buddha statue, and they get Maitreya, the fat Buddha. And there are many, many Midwestern homes and Southern homes, Tallahassee and Biloxi, where on the altar somewhere you'll find Maitreya Buddha, Maitreya Bodhisattva. Because why? Uncle John was a sailor who passed through Hong Kong or the Philippines and got a Buddha image, or Japan. And so the fat Buddha has done a lot of good work for the Dharma. Bringing that's the Buddha. Yeah, he's the peace guy. He's fat. He's happy. I like him. So what about David? How did you first encounter Buddhism? Or the Buddha, that is to say.
Having been born in Los Angeles,
yes,
in a Japanese hospital.
Oh my goodness.
There were Buddhist temples around.
There you go.
Little Tokyo.
Little Tokyo. So you couldn't avoid them. My goodness. It's no wonder you wound up here, David. It's great. Okay, being born in Los Angeles and Little Tokyo, there were Buddha temples everywhere. Moshiroi koto desu ne. So, in search of supreme wisdom, you ascend the 8th stage. That's the preparation. Okay, thank you, Roger. We're good. So, on the 7th stage, you cultivate wisdom and expedient means. That's what we learned just before this. You gather aids to the way, all these practices that support you in your practice and sustain them. Why is Tai Chi and martial arts and tea good for meditators? Because it helps you continue. Gives you a chance to breathe. So you can exhale and let the practice of the Dharma integrate with your life. Okay? The one whom people honor sustains you. In search of supreme wisdom, you ascend the 8th stage. Okay. So, I should have asked Guohua. I would have embarrassed her. Guohua will ask you later about how you first met the Dharma. Okay. You ascend the 8th stage, seeking supreme wisdom. What happens next? Ready? 功德成就恒持名，智慧广大等虚空，闻法能生决定力，是在寂灭无生忍。With merit and virtue accomplished, you are always kind and sympathetic. With wisdom vast and great, your measure equals empty space. Upon hearing the Dharma, you become strong and resolute. This is serene patience when dharmas no longer arise. When you study with a teacher like Master Xuanhua, someone who was trained in the Tiantai Jiaoguan, they're called, the Tiantai school. That's known as the Jiaozong. It's one of the streams of the Chinese Mahayana, Han Chuan Fo Jiao. The Chinese Mahayana tradition has these 5 distinct streams that flow along. Chan is one of them, right? Pure Land is the most popular. There's also the Mi Zong, the esoteric or secret school. There's also the Lü Zong, the school that teaches the Vinaya. But key, and this one we're doing tonight, this is us. We're the Jiao Zong tonight because we're looking into the words the Buddha spoke. What did the Buddha teach? Found in the sutras. If you study the Dharma with somebody like Master Hsuan-Hua, who was thoroughly schooled in the Jiao Zong, you run into these lists, these amazing lists of dharmas. The 1 of this, the 2 of this, the 3 of this, the 4, the 5, up to the 10,000, 84,000 dharma doors, probably the biggest list of all, right? But one of the lists is called the San Zhong Ren, the San Ren, the 3 kinds of patience. And it's a funny one. Why patience? Why 3 kinds of patience? Why is it specifically 3? And why is patience such a big deal? Well, once you look into it, you discover, oh, there is the patience paramita, Ren Ru Bolo Mi, okay? Patience under insult, translated, the perfection of patience. There is the Ren Ru Xian Ren, the immortal who practices patience, often connected to Maitreya, Bodhisattva. But you get this list of 3 kinds of patience. And Shifu would talk about these. And it was a challenge to translate. We go, Sheng Ren, Fa Ren, Wu Sheng, Fa Ren, he would say. There's patience with things that come into being, Sheng. And people would translate it as patience with production. That meant nothing. Patience with production was a Chinglish translation. Came right out of the dictionary. Patience with production, what does that mean? So then there is Faran, patience with dharmas. You think, why is we have to be patient with the dharma? What's that about? And then Wu Sheng Faran, translated as non-produced dharma patience. And you go, let's give me the Chinese words, we'll paste an English word on top and then read it, and we got it. We translated it, right? No, well, we got the code. We have dharma code. We haven't decoded the dharma. Let's decode the dharma. What are the 3 kinds of patience? So my current understanding of what the Shengren, the Faran, and the Wusheng Faran are, and I hope there will be people behind us who will do an even better job of translating these, is these represent things that happen to you as you meditate. These are stages of meditation. And by golly, the 8th practice, the 8th ground, the 8th stage, that 3rd one happens here. We know that much. Now, what does it mean? So let's look at Shengren, Faran, the first 2. When we meditate, we can get to a place where things start to break up. We were just up in Ukiah at the Sudana Center for the 50th anniversary, the 2nd running of the Shurangama Sutra study, summer study session. We did it for, was 8 days up there? 9 days. And one of the last parts of the sutra talks about what are called the 50 Skanda demons. There's a list right there. The 50 Skanda demons, the demons of the 50 states of the Skandas. What happens is, if you're a really good meditator and you put your time into meditation, you sit there, you work on your meditation cushion. Pretty much you need to sit. I mean, you could standing meditation probably, but it'd be harder. You sit, and as Master Hua would say, you sit in full lotus. Well, not everybody can. Maybe half lotus is also okay. In any point, in any case, you sit still. You don't move. And you sit there, and you discover that your eyes, What do they say? Yan guan bi, bi guan kou, kou guan xin. The eyes contemplate the nose, right? The nose contemplates the mouth contemplates the heart, mind, xin. What does that mean? Well, it's a way of taming your senses. Think of your senses as a puppy. Oh boy, puppies are full of energy. They don't want to be still and quiet. Puppies want to wiggle. They want to jump around. They want to chew on the sofa, right? They want to chew on your seatbelt. They want to eat, and they want to be liked. They want to be petted. Blah, blah, blah. Anything that moves, the puppy's after it, right? Our minds are like that. How do we tame our mind? Well, we have to come up with a method. We have to come up with a way to do it. So we let the eyes view the tip of the nose. The nose, looking down, contemplates the mouth. And what is the mouth doing? The mouth is reciting. Maybe Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitofo. Maybe Namo Guanyin Pusa. Maybe Om Mani Padme Hum. The mind is Kou Guan Xin. The mind is contemplating. The mouth is contemplating, the mind is reciting. So the idea is we tune our 6 senses. You could also add the ears in there. You could say the Er, Guan, Xin as well, to get the mind quiet. When we do that over time, we're really quiet. What happens? The energy that ordinarily would go shooting out. Eyes would look at sights. Ears would contemplate sounds outside, right? That energy doesn't. It stays with you, and people report that the body gets warm. The body gets hot, even. And certainly our knees start to talk to us. Ooh, we want to put our legs down. It's hard to sit still, sometimes for a minute, right? We're not used to sitting in full lotus. Pull the feet up. Oh my goodness, your eyes, your knees just go crazy, right? And Master Hua would say, good, you're making progress, don't move. And if it was a Chan session, he would say, we're going to nail you to the Chan bench. Bang, 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 big spikes through your knees, right? So you can't move. If you die, we'll throw you onto the bench. We'll bring you back out after 7 days are up, you know. This is a tough talk, Marine talk in the Chan Hall. So the point of this story, as I'm taking us through this experience, is what happens is if you're really sincere and you say, I'm going to sit right here, I'd rather die than move. You know, I want to discover the source of my mind. What happens is, one of the first things after your body gets warm is it starts to seem not so solid as it once was. People report body kind of gets very huge. It's like empty space. And then after a while of the body being huge like space, you can't even find it. It just shrinks down into a tiny particle of dust. My body is gone. It's just shrunk down to nothing. Then my body gets really, really cold. I want to pile on the blankets. And then, ooh, all the energy runs to the crown of my head. And then I get aches in my back. And then all these things happen. And what you discover is that what seemed to be so solid now is more like a buzzing cloud of energy. It's very transient and alive, not fixed at all as you meditate. Now, not everybody is going to go through this process, but Sheng Ren, patience with arising of these body and mind, is the first patience that we need to endure. What do? You are patient. You wait. You could call it the 3 waitings, you know, the 3 endurings. We wait while all these things come up. Oh, I'm sitting there and my mind is kicking out all these thoughts. I don't want to sit here anymore. You can't make me. I'd rather die. In fact, you may be dead already and not know it. Why don't you let me move? I want to move. I could be out making money, you know. Your mind is just shooting all these ideas up. I experienced my monkey mind as a child, as a kid. In fact, I kept a journal and I called him the kid. The kid is really unhappy with me today because I just keep bowing, it's so boring. And I anthropomorphized him, I humanized him, and didn't take that too far because, once your mind latches onto that, then you have trouble again. But this sheng ren, this arising, so patience when things arise, mostly body and mind, you just wait. All of that experience of the body buzzing as a cloud of energy is just a jing jie. It's a state. It's not, the Buddha doesn't experience his body as a cloud of energy. That's me going through what? The first skanda. The first skanda. The body starts to, you recognize it's not a solid thing as we feel it is. Oh, I'm tired today. Oh, my body feels so weighty today. I overate. I really feel stuffed today. Oh, I'm hungry as a bear. That's the body. And when we meditate and we allow our senses to settle and don't run out, there's transformations. Qian bian wan hua, for sure. Qian bian wan hua, thousands of changes. Okay, that's sheng ren. You wait. Then what happens? Oh my goodness. Fa ren. What happens next is people, if you are sitting until these changes start to happen, some people freak out and quit. No thanks. I am scared of this. This is too much for me. I had an experience of that. The other day we had a blood drive, donating blood, and the process, the nurse who was working, had me strapped into the table, she said, now you may experience some tingling in the lips and some numbness of the face, and this is perfectly normal. If you feel bad, tell me right away, And it's like, I wonder how many people, when they're giving blood, if these changes happen, what do they think about? How do people react to? Mostly we reach right away for Tylenol, right? Aleve, right? Aspirin used to be. We want a chemical means to, if our head hurts or if we have a fever or chill, right away I'll put something in my system which will change it. Well, she said, the nurse said, yeah, we had somebody here last week who just went through this process and his whole body started to get tingly and then it turned numb and he freaked out and he jumped up off the table and ripped out the needle and So, what happens when your body starts to change and transform? Some people don't freak out. They say, how am I going to go further? What's next? I need to know more Dharma. I need teaching. I need training. I need a coach to get me through this state, right? Hey, coach, what's next? And so, in the process of learning more about your meditation practice, one of the things that happens is people doubt. They doubt the Dharma. This can't be right. Who do you know who's enlightened anyway? Isn't this all just a story? You ever met anybody who's enlightened? Maybe this is just the Buddha wanting to sell sutras. Wanting to get likes on his Instagram. Wanting to get followers on his Twitter. Maybe that's what he wants. The mind fires back at this experience. And what do you have to do? Be patient. Fahren. Patience with the Dharma. All right? That's one way. Capital D Dharma. Somebody else interprets this as patience with dharmas, which is what? Not only does your body start to break up, but reality starts to break up. Things that were very firm and clear and stable and reliable, you realize now are just a construct in the mind. The mind itself starts to break apart. And it's spooky. Okay? So you have to what? Be patient. This is faran. That's lowercase d dharmas, meaning reality around you, starting with what? Yourself. The self that I thought was so real and true shows up now as being yet one more illusion. Useful illusion, but illusory, right? Who was I before I came to my mom? Before I came through my mother's womb, who was I? I don't know. Who's reciting the Buddha's name? Who is in there? Nian Fo Shi Shu. I don't know. When I'm reborn in the Pure Land and I come out of the lotus flower, am I still me? Right? The mind starts to whirl. So you have to be patient with all that. Okay, so far so good. Are we three kinds of patience? So my understanding of what's going on is these are meditative states that can occur once you are really committed to your practice. It's not going to happen tomorrow if you cross your legs in your bedroom and sit still for 15 minutes. This happens after hours on the cushion and things are really starting to change. When you get to the 8th stage, something momentous happens. And we've worked on it in the prose section for weeks, preparing people for what was going to happen and then pointing to it as it happened and then talking about it afterwards. Remember Mark Twain? Mark Twain's advice to speakers? He said, tell them you're going to tell them, and then tell them that you told them, he said. That's what a good speaker does. We did that with this crossroads in the 8th stage. We said, this is a big deal. And we got to it, we pointed to it, now we have another chance at it. What is it? The third kind of patience happens here. Wu Sheng Fa Ren. So, Sheng Ren is like you're aware that your body is this blend of earth, air, fire, and water, stuck together with the glue of karma. It comes back until it dies, and then it comes back again with a new set of skandhas. Patience with Dharma is you begin to doubt it and you want to be patient. You experience the mind starting to break up. Deeply held views of who you really deeply are clearly not the case. There's another level of you that doesn't have anything to do with your name, your gender, your social security number, your driver's license. And what happens next? Wu Sheng Fa Ren. The best I can do is give you the description, and Shifu would help. He would say, you see that dharmas are neither produced nor destroyed, and you can bear it. 你自己观察法无生无灭无灭而能忍于心, he would say. You can see that what you think is reality has nothing to do with reality. And apparently it's a major psychological test. Many, many people face to face with this, the things that you thought were sheng and the things that you thought were mie fundamentally have nothing to do with coming into being and passing away. They're stuck forever in time and they never existed at all. A major contradiction right there. And you have to be patient with it. At this point, up is no longer up, down is no longer down. Language has nothing to do with what you see with your senses. Language is this strange system of correspondence, right? Hua, mei gui hua, rose, right? No, I don't think so. Its language has nothing to do with reality, and your thoughts are the biggest abstraction of all. There's a fundamental transformation happening in the substance of your mind because why? You're on your way to wisdom. And wisdom is an actual transformation of the way you perceive. You're heading towards what is called Da Yuan Jing Zhi, wisdom that works like a great mirror, like a big mirror. And it's, if you make it through, how? Being patient, Wu sheng fa ren. If you can be patient while this transformation happens, your wisdom, think about a mirror. How does a mirror work, right? Anything, no matter what it is that comes in front of the mirror, is reflected perfectly in the mirror without any effort, right? The mirror doesn't have to reach out for stuff to reflect, and it doesn't reject them when they're there. It doesn't miss them when they're gone. The mind transforms like that. And the sutra gives analogies about what it's like. It says it's the difference between carrying a boat on your back and hoisting a sail and letting the wind carry the boat. What's the difference? Oh, effortless. The wind powers the boat across the lake, not your back carrying it down to the dock, or your car trailer burning fossil fuels to launch the boat at the landing. So, wow, that's very different, okay? And it's hard to get through. Wu sheng fa ren. If you can do it, you're at the 8th stage, and there's another name for what you have accomplished, which is what? Bu tui zhuan. You have reached the state of no further retreat. Avaivartika, right? You have reached non-retreat. Okay? Do people listening to me go on and on and on like this, right? So, Master Hua said there are 2 super, super important moments in the Bodhisattva path. One is the Chu Fa Puti Xin, the moment when you first make the resolve to wake up. You say, I'm going to grab my chance to get enlightened. I want to become a Buddha because I deeply believe I can. I know I can become a Buddha. It's in me. It's not in my older sister only or my older brother. Me, the Didi, or the Mei, I can do it. It's my potential to be a Buddha. And I'm going to teach living beings in order to do it. That's one moment. The second moment is making it through the 8th stage, Bu Tui Zhuan, to that place where you no longer retreat. Last week at the Sudana Center, we got a good analogy. Can I see the hands? I know there are people who are mountain walkers. Who are mountain walkers? Hikers. Okay, some of us are expert mountain walkers, right? Good? Yes? Some of my happiest moments are on trails going up. I've never climbed with ropes and pitons, crampons and stuff. Haven't gone over ice, and I've never done Yosemite Half Dome or anything like that. But the White Mountains in New Hampshire, the Green Mountains in Vermont, the Appalachians in the American South. I know. Have you done a bunch of peaks, Sandy? Are you going? Do you have a list of peaks you've? No. Nah, you don't. Some people do what? All of the over 10,000 in the U.S. or something. There's a bunch.
It takes over the journey.
Yeah, to get there. Yeah.
The peak takes over, and it's got the journey now.
So she says getting to the peaks takes over the journey, and so getting there instead of enjoying the journey. My idea of a good time would be to hike the Pacific Crest Trail someday, maybe, or the Appalachian Trail. I've only done pieces of it. Anyway, there is a moment when you get past what's called the tree line, and it's dramatic because, as I won't sketch out the whole thing, but you start out down below the trailhead, and everything is taller than you are. Trees are all overhead, and you can't really see your destination. But you keep going, and there's a point where you emerge and the trees don't grow beyond where you are. It's only rock and cairns. Before, there were blazes on the trees. Sometimes they tie a red cloth around it or use red paint and say, this way, you're on the trail. When you get beyond the tree line, what do? They stack up rocks. It's called a cairn, C-A-I-R-N. And it's a stack of rocks. Oh, you're on the trail, right? No more trees. And what you can see once you get past the tree line is, there's the peak. That's where I'm going. And it seems way close compared to before, but it's actually, you still have a distance to go. And you have the feeling of, yeah, I'm going there, and I'll be there soon. I'm on my way. At this point, you don't think, well, maybe I won't, maybe I'll turn around and go back. No, I'm going to the peak. And the 8th stage is exactly that. No further retreat, bu tui zhuan, means you're on your way to Buddhahood, you're not going to doubt, you're not going to quit, you're not going to go 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I was really surprised when I introduced this concept at the Sudana retreat. There were people who immediately wanted to know, am I going to retreat? What does retreat mean? Is there any risk of retreating? I'm not there yet, or am I? Like a lot of sense of, uh-oh, that sounds threatening somehow, the idea of retreating. So not to worry, not to worry. Master Hua would say, cultivation is not for today. It's not for this week. Cultivation is not for this lifetime. Cultivate because this is our job, life after life. Buddhahood is a long walk, but there's nothing better to do. Never mind if we retreat. Just always keep the Bodhi resolve in your heart and understand that that's the goal, is bringing to light. Now, we've talked about it in terms of mountains. Let's completely flip it back and think of it as an inner journey, not a long walk, right? What is it? We're clearing the things away that cover our mind. The difference between me now and the Buddha that I will become is how much ignorance, Wu Ming, is covering my mind right now. When my mind is entirely brought to light, there is no other Buddhahood. And how does one do it? Through, they say, perfecting your humanity, becoming the best possible person. 人道尽，佛道成. When you walk the path of humanity to its ultimate point, there is no other Buddhahood. You have reached Buddhahood. So Buddhas are perfected people. That's the journey, that's the mountain. And in that process, there are changes, and that's probably the biggest deal about this, that medical science doesn't report, right? We don't have any double-blind surveys talking about what happens on the 8th stage. But it's really important, I think, to recognize that the Bodhisattva path has yoga moments in it, yogic moments. There are transformations that happen in the body and mind that it's not an idea, it's not a head trip, it's not a theory. You sit there until you pass through the fires that smelt consciousness to wisdom. Indeed, it's a change. There's a change now. And I think you have to, it would be, what's the benefit of having a teacher like this, is he points out that this is not some sacred text about people long ago and far away. He would say, you want to become a Buddha? Sit still when your knees are on fire and you'll get to the place beyond the pain gate, he would say. You'll get past the pain gate and it doesn't hurt anymore. At that point, you have no more worries, right? So, okay, the sutra comes to life. It gets 3D. Now there's people in the sutra sitting there and going, oh, I don't know if I can make it to the bell. Have they fallen asleep? Please ring the bell. I can't stand it anymore. Ding. I made it. And then you have to get up and walk, and then you get to sit again, but you made it through the pain gate. You know it's possible. Having that experience is such an empowering experience. So, anyway, on and on about this crossroads, this intersection, the 8th stage. With merit and virtue accomplished, you are always kind and sympathetic. People who cultivate to this level are not hard and thorny and cranky. They're kind and sympathetic because why? They've been burned through. They're not edgy. People who have reached this place always look somehow like they've weathered the storm. They look a little bit beat up. With wisdom vast and great, your measure equals empty space. Somebody who has that look I'm describing is Master Haideng, Shaolin Haideng. If you all saw Master Haideng, first of all, he was about 5'2", tiny man, but he looked like he'd been chewed up and spit out. He was, just kind of like he'd slept rough most of his life. And he was 50 times all China martial arts champion. He could do Yizhi Changgong, one of the only people in human history who's ever done a single finger stand. And I saw him do it in San Francisco. Remarkable man. And when he arrived, Master Hua said, Hai Lao, we want to respectfully request you to explain the Shurangama Sutra for us. So Master Haideng did, and Master Hua knelt beside his lecture seat for the entire lecture. He was so happy to hear that Master Haideng explained the sutra. Shifu knelt beside him, it's like a kid hearing some wonderful news about his birthday. He's like that. And so Master Haideng had that look. Somebody who's made it through the weather, like his face was. So what did he do? We hired a movie theater in San Francisco, Chinatown, and posters went up, meet Shaolin Haideng, and the place was jam-packed. This was 1983, I believe. And so Master Haideng came out on stage, and there were all these martial artists in the room. And so we had a 2x4, good, 3-foot 2x4. And Master Haideng asked me to translate for him and said, anybody who would like to pound on Master Haideng with the 2x4, come on up. And they're going, yeah, right. And I said, 可以吗？要，过来了，不怕，你们不怕，不用怕了，不怕我了啊。And so, come on up, don't be afraid. So these, we got an off-duty San Francisco policeman and a Marine, an African-American fellow, must have weighed about 245 pounds. And they came up and they're going, you can't mean it. You said, now, are you insured? This is not we're not going to get sued, right? If we want to, serious, this is not a joke, huh? He said, no. And so Haideng hands them the 2x4, and he says, you can avoid my head, but you don't really have to. If you want to hit me on the head, feel free. And so they're going, okay. So first the policeman just kind of goes thunk, kind of like a baseball, thunk, swinging a softball game, thunk. And Haideng says, come on, your sister hits harder than that, Standard kind of talk, So the guy's, okay. So he wails, boom. And he hits him over the shoulder. And Master Haideng kind of goes, step, like that, 2 steps back and goes, okay, that's your best? Guy now he says, well, no. He said, here. So he pounds on him. Master Haideng goes, tonk, tonk, like that. A couple steps back. He goes, okay, hand it to your buddy there. So the Marine is like, now he's into it. And he whacks on him. And Master Haideng just goes, tonk. He just absorbs it. A couple steps back. He says, okay, well, anybody else? So up come Chinatown's martial artists. And now they're all whacking on him. He's bong, bong, bong. Nobody can knock him off his feet. Nobody can make him do anything except smile. And they're sweating. These guys are like, their reputations are on the line. Let's get our Shifu up here. He'll hit him. And nobody says, okay. He said, thank you all very much. He said, you've just seen a demonstration of Pai Da Gong. It's called Pai Da Gong, the skill of receiving blows. And he said, that's why I was never defeated. He says, I never have to punch anybody. They just can't knock me over. Right? And so we were really like, I guess that's true. You don't have to ever throw a punch if you can take anything that people throw at you and you never go down. So we asked him later at the monastery that night, what was that all about? And he said, I can move my chi. Wherever the blow came, he would move his chi just like you'd, like that. And it never hit him. It just hit his chi, his vital energy. So it's like, that's impressive. That's impressive, Master Haidong. They couldn't knock him over. We used to have my dad got my brother and me Joe Palooka. He had to be a certain age. Did you ever hear about Joe Palooka, Roberto? No? David, Joe Palooka? Yeah, Joe Palooka. He was a Budao Weng in Chinese, right? You knock him and he's weighted on the bottom and he goes tong tong. He comes right back up, tong tong. Master Haidong was a real life Joe Palooka. Budao Weng couldn't knock him over. And he said, actually, I can do it with my head too, but sometimes it makes my ear, they hurt my ears, so he said, don't hit my head. But he said, you could bring your chi up to your head too. And so, what about that? This is somebody who had been through it, and Master Hua said, yeah, he's actually got real Gong Fu. And so that night, I was, I'd seen it, I was helping translate, and couldn't believe that this 5'2" elder Dharma master, he's a bhikshu, right, he's a monk, could be pounded with a 2x4 by the strongest men in San Francisco and not even bruise, nothing. He was in charge. He was totally in control. So I went downstairs at night, it was about 11 o'clock, and there was Master Haidong all by himself walking around. And I thought, oh, here's my chance, So I went up and I bowed to Master Haidong, 3 bows, and he turned towards me and he opened his eyes. He went like that. He stared at me, and it was like there was fire in his eyes. Not angry fire, but it was as if there was flames back there. Like, I'd never seen anybody with fire behind their eyes, And so I Amidofo, Malfasher. So I saw Shifu the next morning. I said, Shifu, I saw Master Haidong last night, and it's like his eyes were on fire, Shifu. And Shifu said, 当然, 他满了, 他没有接近过女人吧? He said, of course, he's full. He's never gone anywhere near women. He said, 你懂吗? I'm like, kind of Shifu, So, how about that? All his life, he was a celibate monastic. So he's probably come back as a monk. So it's like, and the opposite would also be true for women too. So how do you get to control of your body so that you can flip over on one finger and do a finger stand, He calls that tongzi gong, right? Yizhi chang gong, the virgin youth gong skill. It's because you're a remarkable human being, And it made him indestructible. So anyway, that's some of the stories of Master Haidong. He was remarkable. And when I think of this, kind and sympathetic, I always think of Master Haidong. He had that look of somebody who'd been pounded on and unbreakable. Kind, Wisdom vast and great, your measure equals empty space. How do you measure empty space? It's the biggest. There's nothing bigger. That's your measure. I'm talking about your heart, your mind. You don't look at people and say, you're not allowed in this country. Only people who look like me are allowed in this country. Right? White supremacist as a leader. That's a measure the size of your mirror reflection. So your measure equals empty space. All living beings fit inside, not just human beings. You don't eat pigs, but pet your dog. That's funny. That's not having a measure like empty space. Upon hearing the Dharma, you become strong and resolute. This is serene patience when dharmas no longer arise. You can get to that place where everything that you thought you knew about reality cancels itself out, and you can still go, no, that's a state. I'm not a Buddha yet. Living beings are still struggling. I'm going to come back. I don't care how weird it gets. There's something on the other side of it. I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Get up and meditate again this morning. Going to keep going. And sure enough, the state reveals itself. Serene patience. 实在寂灭无生忍. This is the still and tranquil patience when dharmas no longer arise. So that's our new translation. What do you think of that? Patience when dharmas no longer arise. First of all, it meters nicely, right? Wu sheng fa ren. They used to call it the non-produced dharma patience, and that, like, can't make head nor tails of that. Serene patience when dharmas no longer arise. They don't come into being, but they don't pass away either. And you have to be patient with that. The mind can do it? Gee whiz. I was watching, from Australia, I was watching the rocket take off from Russia to refuel the International Space Station. Inside was an American woman and 2 Russian men. And wow, it was a successful launch, everything was great. And all of the decisions that had to be made before that thing happened, before we put that crazy tube with flames coming out the bottom through the keyhole in space to rendezvous with the space station. And as they had a camera, they're really nice. I was watching the NASA channel, right? And they had a camera on the outside of the last piece, the actual capsule, as the booster rockets fell away. And you could see the Earth. You know, first it's too big to see, and then it just kind of recedes. You can see there's the Earth back there, and we're heading out that way. And you think, what an incredible engineering feat that is, to be able to send 3 human beings safely out to rendezvous with that creation out there. And we can do that. We can do that safely. And yet, the patience that allows a human being to become a bodhisattva, we don't have a clue. If Master Hua had not opened this book for 9 years and said, I want everybody to recognize how important these are, we wouldn't know. The Avatamsaka Sutra is still there. The instructions for the Bodhisattva path are still there, but who cares, right? Why bother? What do you get out of that? They say, what do you get out of sitting there like that? Well, you open up potentials in the human mind that science hasn't a clue of. And yet, for 2,500 years, people have been doing this. And transforming themselves into extraordinary human beings who can keep alive this vision of the Tao. And for sure, humanity is poorer if we lose sight of the Tao, however you conceive of the Tao, right? If we no longer care that this potential for wisdom and compassion exists, basically the Dharma ending age has come, you know, and there's not much need to worry anymore. So people who see what's going on inside of this country, who are paying attention, are worried because the time when the Tao is forgotten has been hastened in the last year, interestingly. So that's okay. It's no mistakes. That's where we are now. But that we can come together on a Saturday night and look into the sutra says there's still a bright light burning, and it can be translated into Chinese and into Vietnamese. Says there's a lot of goodness to be explored here. So, by golly, I'm going to close my sutra here. We've got the verses to explore. We'll go faster next week. We'll take in more. A lot of tonight's talk had to do with setting the stage for these verses to arise. And now that we know where we are, we can go through them more quickly. If you have a songbook in front of you, please turn to the back. The dedication of merit, the transference of merit. The way this works, this is interactive. You can take part if you choose to do so. When we transfer all living beings is a pretty abstract quantity, right? Think about a relative. Think about a parent. Even if you're a parent, you had parents. Think about grandpa, grandma, wherever they might be, in Malaysia, in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Vietnam. My parents have, I guess one would be in heaven, one would be in the Pure Land. My mom would certainly want to be in heaven. Think about those parents, because why? We know them, we had experiences with them, and transfer for their well-being. Now, their bodies may, if they're no longer alive, their bodies may have recycled and no longer breathing as that person. But where is their soul? The thing that was inside that body. Where is that soul? If you follow the Buddhist perspective on this, then you say it came back. We follow our sum total of good and bad deeds, wholesome and unwholesome karma, and return till all our debts are paid off. They say people come back in two ways. One is blown by the wind of karma. The other is because of your vows, because you choose to come back as a woman in a woman's body, to teach in that form. Come back as a man's body to teach in that form. That's one Buddhist perspective on it. So, think about a parent. We can use the body that they were in to focus on what was inside and say, my connection with you, be it wholesome, unwholesome, a mix of the two, some great memories, some not so great memories. If I meet you again, I would like that relationship to be mutually beneficial, wholesome, not harmful. So I transfer this merit from listening to the sutra tonight, all the good deeds I did today or since the last time I dedicated merit, and give it to you. Send it to you with my mind. Just pass it on, pass it along. And you could say, with the wish that our connection in the future is entirely wholesome, delightful, fostering each other's goodness and wisdom. That's a great transference. So that way we get better at it. If you focus on a visual of someone you knew, suppose you had a bad relationship, rocky, tough relationship with some relative. You know what you want to transfer to erase that negativity, so that you meet again and you might even just not even connect with each other because it's all been repaid. That's a choice you can make. If this doesn't spark an idea to you, then dedicate to people. One of the realities of 2018 is displaced people, refugees, or people who are just forced onto the roads because of their home is no longer livable. Syria, I saw a statistic in the last few months, 200,000 more Syrians have been displaced. Most of the population of Syria is no longer able to live where they were born. And these are people just like us, people with iPhones, people with movies on their mind, and girlfriends and boyfriends and children and grandparents, and they're now in a state of utter uncertainty and dismay, frustration. So there's a place to transfer merit, indeed. So you make a wish, but do send that out with your heart. Here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, spare the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in living unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward, may all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light tell the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Alrighty. Jerry, how many folks tonight? Did you get a count? 41 online. 58 going to China. China scale, 68. 中国式. Wow. Come on, YouTube. Let's see if we can let China beat us in everything, right? So we have Cliff and Sam, our volunteers in Gold Coast, hearing what I'm saying, coming over, go to meeting, and they're got a microphone and they're translating into Mandarin for China. So, how about that? China can't get YouTube. Owned by Google. Google doesn't go. So. My tall fir trees touch the sky, where eagles raise their young. Timber wolves would serenade. When sundown song was sung, salmon swam home to their stream. Every year we'd find them there. Redwoods like cathedrals, every breath was like a prayer. Turtle Island lullaby, song for the end of day, to ease us into twilight, send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. You wasted all my topsoil. You fished my waters dry. You clear-cut my green trees. I can't breathe and I can't cry. What about your children? How far can you see? What we do to our neighbors becomes our destiny. A Turtle Island lullaby, song for the end of day, to lead us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. Good night to the salmon. Good night to the seal. Good night to the turtles. May your spirits be free. No one owns the fire. No one owns the air. No one owns the water. The earth's a gift to share. Life itself is sacred. May we all one day be healed. May we find our great compassion when our kinship is revealed. Turtle Island lullaby, at the end of day, to ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. Turtle Island lullaby. Turtle Island lullaby. At the end of day. At the end of day. To ease us into twilight. To ease us into twilight. And send us on our way. And send us on our way. We are all related. We are all related. On the planet that we share. On this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. Small blue marble in the air. That's a good question. We'll be up in Turtle Mountain on Turtle Island in a couple weeks. Buddha Root Farm. So we also have a family camp happening, and I'm going to let whoever's got the microphone down there, Jin Chuan Shi, Jin Ho Shi, you want to talk about Buddhist family camp? And then we're going to ask Jin Fo Shi to talk about tomorrow's program.
Okay, so from August 6th to 9th, we're having the first Northern California Buddhist family camp at Sudana Center, which is near the 17,000 Buddhas. The theme is called Connecting to Our Roots, Kindness, Compassion, Empathetic Joy, and Serenity. And the theme of it is to tell stories. We were hoping to have it be family-based, and it's a really good opportunity for parents to be able to share their lives, their stories, their roots, maybe for their grandparents or their parents, with their children. And to help in this process, we actually invited Brian Conroy, who is a storytelling master, I guess, a teacher of storytelling. He taught at San Francisco State University and also San Jose State University. And he
San Jose State.
Yeah, San Jose State. And he also taught at Berkeley Buddhist Monastery for many years, a storytelling class. And in addition, so he'll be teaching storytelling so that it help with the process of developing a story. And so this is something we're going to be doing for 3.5 days up in Sudana Center. We are actually pretty full now, but if people are interested, we can put you on the waiting list for the retreat or for the camp. You can find it at berkeleymonastery.org/family. Or if you just go to the front page, you'll see Berkeley Monastery/family. One more idea about this family camp is that we're really trying to help think about how Buddhist principles can be manifested in modern life as a family. So how do we talk about filiality? How do we talk about repaying kindness? How do children maybe have a chance to serve their parents and have meals together? How does that continue on in these modern times with our technology and all the different ways that we get distracted? So that's kind of the theme for our family camp this time. If you have questions, you can come talk to me or others in the monastery.
Sounds pretty good. Okay, tomorrow, we got something tomorrow going on. 请佛师，你用中文讲，我们帮你翻译吧。
明天我们这边有念佛法会，从7点半到下午4点半。
7点半吧。
早上7点半。
Yeah， 他们。
no， 8点半，早上。
8
点半到下午4点半，然后中午我们有吃午餐，大家聚会吃午餐，然后这个是用帕拉的性质来供餐，所以欢迎大家能够来参与。然后我们念佛法会是用我们圣城的调子来念佛，然后中间我们也有教一些打地宗的，可以学习地宗念佛，这个是非常好。目前我们有这样子的机会， 学习地宗念佛，这个是非常好的事情大家有兴趣的话，都可以来参加。
So tomorrow, starting at 8:30 in the morning, we're going to have a Buddha recitation day, and we will recite the Buddha's name from 8:30 till 4:30. And the method, we're using our traditional CTTB method. We have two different methods. Tomorrow is the standard traditional method. There's also going to be an opportunity to play the ground bell, the Di Zhong, which is a great way to practice Buddha recitation with a wooden fish and a bell. Everybody gets a set. You get the bang, bang, bang. It's really fun. And there will be a lunch, veggie lunch. You're welcome to join. And tea at 4:30 at the end. And we do it in silence, right? 就止语，我们就修这个止语行，是吗？不讲话。So it's done in silence as well. Great practice in the middle of busy summer to have even one day of reciting the Buddha's name like this can be the highlight of your summer. Free of charge, please come and join. Okay, good. Okay, we very much appreciate the translations into Vietnamese, the translations into Chinese via Australia, and all the work putting this out into the internet and archiving it. All right, we will now bow to the Buddha. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next week. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Namo Tassa